Most people think Spartan warriors were built through brutal training. Endless drills, harsh discipline, pain. But ancient writers describe something far more surprising. Before Spartan boys were taught how to fight, they were taught how to think, and the mindset they learned may explain why a small Greek city-state produced some of the most feared warriors in history. Because the real Spartan advantage was not their weapons. It was a psychological rule that changed how they saw fear, pain, and even death. And strangely enough, this same rule might be exactly what modern life has made us forget. Today, most battles do not happen on a battlefield. They happen in your head. You sit down to start something important, a project, a difficult conversation, a life decision, but instead of acting, your mind begins negotiating. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if this goes wrong? So you hesitate, you delay, you overthink. The strange thing is that modern life gives us more comfort than any generation before us. And yet anxiety, indecision, and mental paralysis are everywhere. We hesitate over small risks. We fear small failures. We replay conversations and mistakes for days. It is not that we are weak, it is that our minds have been trained in the opposite direction of how ancient warriors trained theirs. Because thousands of years ago, in a harsh valley in southern Greece, the Spartans developed a mindset rule that solved this problem at its root. Sparta was not like other Greek cities. It did not value luxury, comfort, or artistic fame. It valued one thing above all else: strength of character. Spartan boys entered the famous training system called the agoge at around 7 years old. Life there was harsh. Food was scarce. Conditions were uncomfortable. Competition was constant. But the goal was not simply to produce tough soldiers. It was to produce a certain type of mind. One that could remain calm under pressure. One that did not panic when things went wrong. One that could act decisively even when afraid. Ancient historians like Plutarch described how Spartans were taught to see hardship in a very unusual way. Pain was not treated as an enemy. Fear was not treated as a signal to stop. Both were treated as teachers. From a young age, Spartan boys were repeatedly placed in difficult situations. They were made to endure cold, hunger, exhaustion, and uncertainty. But something fascinating happened through this process. They stopped reacting emotionally to discomfort and instead began observing it. What most people experience as overwhelming pressure, Spartans learned to experience as information. This created the psychological rule that defined Spartan thinking. Do not run from difficulty. Move toward it. Because the thing you fear is usually the doorway to the strength you lack. This rule changed everything. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. One sees discomfort as danger. The other sees discomfort as training. The first person hesitates. The second person advances. Over time, the difference compounds. This is why Spartan warriors appeared fearless to their enemies. It was not that they felt no fear. It was that they had practiced walking toward it so many times. That fear stopped controlling their decisions. Modern psychology would later rediscover this principle. Exposure therapy works the same way. When you repeatedly face something uncomfortable, the brain gradually stops treating it as a threat. But the Spartans understood this thousands of years earlier. They had turned it into a culture, a philosophy, a way of life, and it produced warriors whose greatest strength was mental. But here is where the story becomes even more interesting, because the Spartan rule was not really about war. It was about clarity.
Ready to advance?
When you stop
Yes,
avoiding
let's
discomfort, something surprising happens. Your mind becomes quieter. Indecision fades. Fear loses its grip. Why? Because most mental suffering does not come from the difficulty itself. It comes from resisting the difficulty. Think about the moments when you feel most stressed: waiting for bad news, avoiding a conversation, procrastinating on a decision. The stress comes from delay, from uncertainty, from the mental loop of avoidance. The Spartans cut through this loop with brutal simplicity. If something is difficult, that is exactly where you go. This mindset removed hesitation from their lives. And hesitation is often where fear grows strongest. There is a story often told about Spartan mothers. When their sons left for battle, they were given a simple instruction: return with your shield, or on it. To modern ears, this sounds harsh, but the message was not really about death. It was about commitment. If you accept the worst outcome in advance, fear loses much of its power. When your mind stops negotiating with discomfort, you move with clarity, and clarity creates confidence. This may be the real secret behind Spartan resilience. They did not try to eliminate fear. They eliminated avoidance, and that difference is enormous. Most people wait to feel confident before taking action. Spartan thinking flips this idea completely. Confidence is not required before action. Confidence is produced by action, especially uncomfortable action. Every time you face something difficult, your brain collects evidence. Evidence that you can handle more than you thought. Evidence that fear does not mean stop. Evidence that growth sits on the other side of discomfort. This is how mental strength is built, not through motivation, through repeated exposure to challenge. Now consider modern life again. We are surrounded by tools designed to reduce discomfort. Instant entertainment, endless distractions, comfortable routines, but the side effect of removing challenge is something ancient cultures understood well. A mind that never faces discomfort becomes fragile. Small problems feel overwhelming. Small risks feel terrifying. Small failures feel catastrophic. The Spartans trained in the opposite direction. They built psychological calluses. They made discomfort normal. And once discomfort becomes normal, courage becomes easier. The strange twist is that the Spartan rule is incredibly simple. It does not require ancient battlefields or brutal training camps. It only requires a small shift in how you interpret discomfort. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid this?" ask a different question. What might this challenge be training in me? That one question changes the entire experience. The difficult conversation becomes training in honesty. The intimidating opportunity becomes training in courage. The uncomfortable effort becomes training in discipline. Discomfort stops being the enemy. It becomes the gym where your character develops. The Spartans understood something modern life often hides from us. Comfort is pleasant, but challenge is transformative. And the people who grow the most are rarely the ones who avoid difficulty. They are the ones who walk toward it. Again and again, until what once felt impossible becomes normal. So the next time you feel that moment of hesitation, that tight feeling before doing something difficult, remember the rule that shaped one of history's most disciplined warrior cultures. Do not step away from the challenge. Step toward it. Because the doorway you fear walking through is often the exact one that leads to the stronger version of you.